Okay, we've all been there, right? A truly brilliant idea hits you while you're out walking the dog, or maybe in the shower, and you quickly jot it down in some random app on your phone. And then, a week later, it's just gone forever, completely buried under grocery lists and meeting notes. The traditional way we take notes is, well, it's fundamentally broken because it relies on these isolated silos. But today, let's dive into this explainer by exploring a fascinating concept that completely transforms how we view note-taking and knowledge management. We're going to look at a system called Obsidian. Now, this isn't just another place to dump your fleeting thoughts. It's an environment designed to fundamentally sharpen your thinking. But before we get into the actual mechanics of how it does that, we really need to reframe what the act of writing actually is.
Listen to this. Look, here's a table covered with red cloth. On it is a cage. In the cage is a white rabbit. On its back, clearly marked in blue ink, is the numeral 8. We've engaged in an act of telepathy. That's Stephen King from his book On Writing. And it's just a profoundly beautiful idea. Think about it. He never opened his mouth. You never opened yours. You might not even be in the same year or the same room, yet a very specific image, a white rabbit with an 8 on its back, was just transmitted directly into your mind. Writing, as the source material highlights here, is literal telepathy. Ideas can travel through time and space without ever being uttered out loud, requiring nothing more than a sending place, like a writer sitting at a desk, and a receiving place, like you, right now, absorbing this explainer.
So this brings us to the core question driving this entire explainer. If ideas are these magical telepathic transmissions traveling through time and space, how do we best capture and connect them? The reality is, the human brain is an absolute powerhouse for generating ideas. But let's be honest, it is frankly terrible at storing them. We forget brilliant insights within minutes. So how do we build a receiver powerful enough to not just catch a fleeting thought before it evaporates, but to actually nurture it and connect it to a lifetime of learning? We absolutely cannot rely on rigid, disconnected folders anymore. We need a system designed specifically for the unique, completely non-linear way the human mind actually works.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the foundation, the 3 pillars of Obsidian.
Obsidian makes 3 non-negotiable promises to you, and they pretty much flip the script on modern software. First off, your thoughts are yours. Obsidian stores notes privately, right on your local device. That means you get lightning-fast, offline access, and absolute privacy. You aren't relying on some cloud server that could suddenly go down or scrape your data for ads. No one else can read your notes. Second, your mind is unique. You don't have to force your brain to work the exact way a specific developer dictates. With thousands of community plugins and themes, the app actually molds to fit you. And third, and this one is absolutely massive for longevity, your knowledge should last. Obsidian avoids that dreaded vendor lock-in by using open file formats, specifically plain text markdown files. Markdown basically just means your text isn't trapped in some proprietary app format. It's universally readable raw text. You don't need special software to open it. You truly own your data for the long haul. I mean, if Obsidian ever disappears in 10 or 20 years, your plain text files will remain perfectly readable on literally whatever computer you're using. Your knowledge outlives the software. Period.
Moving on to Section 2, the connection engine, mimicking the brain. So instead of trapping an idea in a rigid hierarchy of folders, Obsidian operates on one incredibly simple concept, the link. Just think about how traditional computer folders fail us every day. If you write a note about a psychological study on habit formation, does that go in your psychology folder, your productivity folder, or maybe your book summaries folder? The brain just doesn't work in isolated filing cabinets. It works by association. So you create connections between your notes. You can link anything and everything, ideas, people, places, books, you name it. As the source material suggests, you're effectively inventing your very own personal Wikipedia. When one thought triggers another, you just link them together. Exactly how your brain fires off synapses. You're building a massive web of context.
To see how this actually works in practice, let's say you're taking notes on René Descartes' Meditations on First Philosophy. You jot down his super famous realization, I think, therefore I am. You note that he argues doubting requires thinking, and therefore, the very act of thinking confirms his existence. Now, in a traditional notebook, this is exactly where the journey ends, right? It's just a single, powerful node of information, a spark, completely isolated on a page.
But imagine linking that Descartes note to a much broader lecture on philosophy. You contrast rationalists, who believe fundamental truths can be known independent of experience through reason and deduction, with empiricists, who argue all knowledge is derived from sensory perception and observing the external world. By simply linking Descartes into that rationalist camp, your notes are no longer just some flat list of facts to memorize. They become a mapped-out, structural debate. It feels incredibly satisfying. Honestly, it's almost like you're a detective, pinning photos to a corkboard and tying them all together with red string. Every new piece of information you learn gives you a new thread to pull, instantly connecting it to what you already know.
And as you add more of these links over days, months, and years, you unlock what is arguably Obsidian's most incredible feature, the graph. The graph lets you actually visualize the relationships between your notes. It is highly interactive, and let me tell you, there is a profound feeling when you zoom out and see your brain visually mapped out for the very first time. You aren't just looking at a list of documents, you're looking at a living, breathing constellation of your own knowledge. You can physically watch your areas of expertise cluster together into these dense hubs. You can spot the lonely, isolated ideas and figure out exactly how they connect with the larger picture. You literally find hidden patterns in your thinking that you never, ever would have noticed in a traditional, linear notebook. It's a lot like stepping back from a giant mosaic to finally see the entire picture. But sometimes, a text document, even a beautifully linked one, just isn't quite enough to process a massive, complex project. That's exactly where the canvas comes in. This is an infinite spatial area to research, brainstorm, diagram, and lay out your ideas visually. It's described as a limitless playground for your mind. Picture this, you're mapping out the plot of a sprawling sci-fi novel, or maybe you're planning a really intricate university thesis. You can just drag your text notes, image files, and PDFs directly onto this infinite digital board and physically arrange the relationships between them. You can draw arrows, group concepts into color-coded boxes, and just organically move the pieces of your project around until everything perfectly clicks into place.
Okay, Section 3, Customizing Your Mental Space, Shaping the App to Fit You.
Because Obsidian is built with an open API, which just means it's built so anyone can write custom code for it, there is a massive ecosystem of community plugins. You aren't stuck with just the default tools out of the box. Imagine starting your morning with Liam Kane's calendar plugin to ground your thoughts, easily pulling up yesterday's journal entry. Then, as you shift gears into work mode, you move your active projects into Matthew Meyer's Markdown-backed Kanban boards, seamlessly dragging tasks from to-do over to done. For the data-obsessed folks out there, you might use Michael Brennan's Data View to automatically pull all your book summaries into a dynamically updating table. And when it's time to outline your next big presentation, the Vyacheslav Slinko's Outliner plugin lets you effortlessly manage these complex, nested lists. The big takeaway here is that with thousands of these community-built tools available, you are the architect. You get to build the exact thinking space that your unique brain needs. Which brings us to Section 4, the ecosystem. Sync, publish, and beyond.
Now, even though your files live locally on your hard drive, Obsidian still gives you a super secure way to access them from anywhere without compromising that core privacy. Everything is secured with end-to-end encryption, meaning only you hold the keys, no one else. You get fine-grained control with selective sync, so you decide exactly which images, PDFs, or massive folders sync over to your phone and which one stays safely on your desktop. But honestly, perhaps the greatest peace of mind comes from the version history. Obsidian acts as this incredible safety net, giving you a full year of version history to track changes between revisions for every single note. This means you literally never have to fear accidentally deleting a brilliant paragraph ever again. You can always just roll back the clock. And hey, if you need to work with others, you can even set up shared vaults to collaborate with your team without ever exposing your personal private data.
So what happens when you actually want to share all of this accumulated genius with the rest of the world? Well, the workflow is incredibly streamlined, and it acts as the ultimate payoff for all your focused thinking. Step 1, you write in private, using universally readable plain text Markdown. Step 2, you connect your ideas, nurturing them and building out that interconnected personal Wikipedia we talked about. And Step 3, when an idea is finally ready, you publish it instantly. Obsidian Publish takes your private notes and turns them into a blazing fast, mobile-friendly online wiki, a documentation site, or a lush digital garden. It's totally optimized for search engines right out of the box with zero configuration required. It takes that initial private spark of an idea, runs it through the engine of your connected thoughts, and seamlessly transforms it into a polished resource that anyone on the web can instantly explore and learn from.
And that brings us right back full circle to the very beginning of this explainer. If we accept Stephen King's premise that writing really is an act of telepathy, a way to send incredibly complex ideas across time and space directly into the mind of another person, then the tools we use to craft those messages matter deeply. By keeping your thoughts private, by linking them together to form entirely new insights, and by having the power to completely mold your environment and share your ideas instantly, you aren't just taking notes, you are building a powerful transmission tower for your mind. So I'll leave you with this to ask yourself, if writing is telepathy, what exactly will your mind broadcast next?